and loaded those on the bus and bought my bus ticket to the border. And I think it was the first city just across the border. So I got to the border on the bus, and there wasn't any checks, anything leaving the United States. Okay, I went on the other side of it, just kind of drove on the other side of it, and I got out, and my Spanish at this time was just basically nothing, just a couple of words, you know. And so I was still able to communicate somehow to buy a bus ticket, and the furthest south I could go in Mexico was Mexico City. So I bought a bus ticket for Mexico City and traveling on the bus. And we arrived in Mexico City about 11 o'clock at night. I seem to have 11s in this here for some reason. And so bought another bus ticket for the border towards Guatemala. And got back on the bus and continued on again. Spanish, very little. I don't know how to communicate by the grace of God. On the day, they understood enough of what I was trying to say, I guess. And I remember the bus being stopped twice by police, and the police pulling people off the bus, checking identifications and stuff. And the first time they didn't bother me. The second time I had my Bible out. It was in my lap, and I was kind of reading, and the police officer had stopped and was starting to question me, but I didn't understand the Spanish, and so I'm kind of trying to talk, and the guy happened to be sitting on my left. Kind of jumped him, you know. He was like, or to me, my interpretation of the Spanish was that, what are you doing talking to this guy? What are you even bothering him for? It's a Bible. Leave him alone. Was kind of my interpretation of, I don't know exactly what he said, And the policeman kind of stopped and he looks up at everybody else, but the back, the rest of the bus behind us that are, on the, everybody's watching him, So I don't know, okay, he turns around and he leaves, And so again, I didn't have a passport. I had a paper copy of my driver's license, and that's all that I had on that. So it's just by the grace of God, God put an angel next to me for the moment to rebuke this guy, to keep that. And we continued on, through Mexico. It was like a couple days getting through Mexico by bus. And I arrived at the border in Guatemala, and everybody had to get off the bus. And so I got off the bus, and I'm waiting, and then finally this lady comes in and asks me I bought another ticket for the other side of Guatemala. This is what I did. And I'm waiting, and she comes and asks me for my passport. I said, I don't have one. And she says, okay. And when she get back on the bus, and she closes the curtain, and as I stay on the bus while everybody else is off the bus, and then the bus drives across the border from Mexico to Guatemala. Everybody else gets back on the bus, and we continue on, and we go all the way to the other border of Guatemala. And I think we stopped at Mexico City or Guatemala City, and passengers on and off and stuff, and I'll use the restroom and whatever. And on to the other side of Guatemala, and when we got to the other side of Guatemala, the bus turns around and starts going back the other way, and this lady didn't say anything, and I'm wondering, 5-10 minutes, like what's going on. And she comes back to me and explains that she thought that it would, meaning the crew that's on the bus, thought that I should go back to Guatemala City and get my passport. And I'm like, well, okay, all right. And so got back to Guatemala City and got off, got my stuff, got a taxi, went to the embassy. This is Friday afternoon. And I'm trying to communicate with the people there, and they finally get me on a phone with the officer on duty for the weekend, I guess, or for that night anyway. And I was talking to this officer on duty and explaining to her my situation, and she finally gives me an address and kind of directions of a place to about 8 blocks away from there, because Friday afternoon the staff at the embassy had already got home, and so that means I'm staying the weekend in Guatemala. And so I go to find this hostel, and the lady there is the daughter of the no, not the daughter, it was the mother of the owner at this hostel. And so she speaks some English, and so I communicate okay with her, and I purchased the room for the weekend, and I go back on Monday on that. And Monday when I get back to the embassy, they want to set me an appointment for 8 days away. I'm like, 8 days, 8 days, I don't have that much money to be hanging around for 8 days, you know. So anyway, what am I going to do now? And so it's just for an appointment. And so anyway, I go back to the hostel and I explain my situation to this lady, and I tell her I do construction work, I can fix things, So I end up working for her for the next 45 days, fixing stuff there, staying at this hostel for 45 days. It only took me 23 days to get my passport. Okay, the lady said that if I hadn't previously had a passport back in 2000, that it would have been a lot more difficult for me to get my passport. As soon as I had one previously back in 2000, then it made it easier to get one. This time it was $135. So again, God looking out for me, taking care of things on that, and so. After about 45 days, she tells me, I have no more work for you. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'm feeling it's time to continue on. I'm just waiting for the work to run out, I guess. And so I get back on the bus and come down through San Salvador. On the bus at San Salvador, there's this elderly lady who's a nun on there. And you can tell she's real concerned about me, on that. I don't know exactly what she's saying. She's praying, concerned about me, just for whatever reason. I don't really know the lady, but anyway, she is. And so I continued through San Salvador on to Honduras, and got through Honduras, and my money's running out. Basically, I didn't have that much money. It wasn't making that much, there anyway. And so anyhow, I wasn't able to really save up much. Probably because I eat out all the time, I guess. And so anyway, just fast food. But anyway, still, it got to the border of Honduras and Costa Rica, and I've got $25, and I need a bus ticket in and out of Costa Rica. It wasn't a problem with San Salvador or Honduras. When you get to Costa Rica, you're supposed to have a bus ticket in and out. Oh wow, okay. And about only $25, and so I'm like, okay, well, what's the closest city on the other side of the border? In Panama, and oh, geez, I'm forgetting the name of the city just on the other side of there. It wasn't St. James something. I forget anyway at the moment. And so, and I'm talking with them for like 10 minutes, because they want $42 for this bus ticket. And I've got 25, and they're trying to tell me why I can buy a bus ticket coming back here for 15, and like, no, I can't do that. Oh, when I got my passport in Guatemala, they were like, how did you get here? How did you get into the country? So I kind of explained a little bit, and then I needed some other kind of paperwork or something too. So I had to go to another organization, and they were pissed at me, because I was in San Salvador, and they wanted me to go back to the border and come back across the border again. I said, I don't have that kind of money to be doing that. I can't do that. So finally, they give me a piece of paper. Says you have 5 days to get out of South America, and I'm assuming South America means Panama too, but evidently it doesn't. And so anyway, so I'm at the border of Honduras. So no, I can't come back here from Costa Rica to here. I got to keep going, And my mind doesn't think, I guess, that deviously like theirs were. Like, you don't have to come back. You just got to buy the ticket, So it took them 10 minutes to do that. Meanwhile, this bus is waiting for me, holding up the bus, trying to get on. So finally, I realized and bought the ticket. Got back on the bus, and I hear them talking, and somebody's talking about taking a plane, to Colombia, because that's where I'm planning on going to Colombia, instead of taking the bus, and everybody else is laughing. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's how it goes. And so anyway, just kind of felt in my heart that God told me I got to go by bus. I didn't have a passport to leave the United States anyway, so I wouldn't have been able to take a plane. Anyhow. And so, again, just God using the situation, using me as I go along through all this, and touching people's hearts and lives, people I spoke to along the way, and different kinds of things. So I was in Guatemala. I remember a guy at Taco Bell and discussing Bible issues with him, on that he wasn't believing. He thought the Bible had a lot of contradictions in there, and prophecies that failed and stuff. And so we discussed that. But anyway, stuff like that God uses me for, touches people's hearts and minds and lives along the way, and that's okay. That's good. So anyway, we're on the bus and going to to San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica. And we get in there, and again, it's like about 11 o'clock at night. And get out this bus terminal and trying to figure out which bus I'm supposed to exchange over into, and learn that the other bus I'm supposed to get onto is actually in another bus terminal, and that's like 8 blocks away. So middle of the night, I gotta carry my big, huge backpacks and walk, to the middle of the night over to this other bus terminal. I'm like, oh, okay. So it took me a little bit to figure that out, and talking to people and understanding what exactly was being said. And so as I'm walking, trying to find my way over to the other bus station, I come across a couple of homeless guys that are sitting down, kind of eating a little something, and I, again, talking to them. I'm not sure exactly how I'm communicating with them, but one of them understands I need to go to the terminal, and so yeah, I'll show you. So he gets up and walks me over there. Another 5 or 6 blocks, and I had a couple of cans of tuna or something in the backpack, and I ended up giving him for saying thank you for doing that. And I didn't give the lady on the bus that got me across the border anything, and I should have. I kind of regret that. I should have given her $20 or something, for helping me on the bus. There at the border, get across the border, and I didn't even think about it later, just unfortunately. Anyway, so I finally get to the terminal I'm supposed to be at, and ask about the ticket there on that, and basically trying to exchange the one ticket for another one, and learn that I need another $19 to be able to purchase my other ticket. So I sit down in the chairs, put my backpacks beside me, had a large piece of paper that I put on there. I need, in English, I need, $19 for a bus ticket, and started sleeping, sitting up, next to my stuff. And in the middle of the night, some guy gives me $5, and so, okay, great. I change my sign to 14. And then the next morning, after I wake up, two employees there come up. One gives me 10, one gives me 4. That's everything I need. Gracias a Dios. Thank you, Father, on that. So I go up, I get the bus ticket, and it's leaving about 11 o'clock in the daytime. And so, okay, great. I had like 3 or 4 hours to wait before the bus, and so I took my sign and kind of sat outside of the bus depot there. With my sign, somebody gave me some change. It was just a mix of change from different countries, on that in my pocket. And I think somebody gave me a couple dollars and on that. So that's about all that I had left at that point in time. And so 11 o'clock came, went to get on the bus, and the guy says, no, you go back to the counter. So I went back to the counter, and the guy did his magic at the computer. I think there was supposed to be a fee for loading my bags, I guess. And so he took care of that, by the grace of God again. And put my stuff on there, and I got on the bus, and understood there was supposed to be $1 tax, when I enter into Panama, on that. And that's about all I had, $1 or $2, on that, plus the change, And the change was, I don't know, maybe $1.50 or something, I don't know. And so anyway, we arrive about the sun setting in the border of Panama. And there's this old man standing in line at the window at the border there, and he's got this one half of the piece of paper is a photo of what I believe was his wife, and the other half was the story. And of course, it's in Spanish, so I don't understand it, but I can tell, the guy's, needing some money, for stuff. So I pulled all the money out. It was just the odds and ends of the monies that I had, and I gave to this old man on there. And then I'm waiting in line, and the couple in front of me is an American couple, and they're having issues. And from what I can tell, they've been to Panama before. They knew they should have a bus ticket in and out of Panama, but they don't, because it's the same issue there with Costa Rica, in and out. And I'm like, oh, I don't have money to buy a ticket, on this. And so they end up taking this couple, put him to the side to another window, and he calls me forward, and I'm kind of start talking to this guy, and he asked me if I have a ticket, and I said no, and he asked me if I've been in Panama before. I said no, it's my first time. Yeah, he said okay, so I'd be graceful to you, and it's like on the computer, and by the grace of God, again, he works the paperwork, gives me my paperwork, and then we have to walk beside the bus for about a good block, just to like across the border to the other side and check in on the other side over there too. And they want to go through all your backpacks and all your bags and everything. You fill out a piece of paperwork and it's in Spanish. I don't really know what the heck's going on. We're in this room, got all our stuff laid out, and these military officers are walking around going through stuff, and he gets to me and sees the paperwork and stuff on that, and at this point in time I still have scripture verses written on my T-shirts, but they're in English. They're not in Spanish. But I don't know. Maybe the guy saw me give the money to that old man. I don't know what it was, but by the grace of God, I had favor with him too. He fills out the paperwork for me and gives it back to me. Doesn't go through my stuff, on that, and goes through everybody else's, and go out and put my stuff back on the bus. And I get on the bus, and then he comes on the bus, and talking to everybody that's on the bus and checking their backpacks. Ignores me and goes right past me, in and out. I'm like, okay, thank you, Father. I'm praying Psalm 91 every day, for God's shield of protection. There's a good book called Psalm 91 by Peggy Joyce Ruth, and the last half of that book is nothing but testimonies of people who pray Psalm 91 every day, who memorize and pray it every day, and being delivered from being like stranded in the ocean to being delivered during times of war. I remember this lady's son had a ski accident, and she remember seeing her son's arm bit backwards, like it was definitely broke. But by the time the doctors check it out, she was continuously praying that. Well, after this skier came flying down the hill and hit her son, and he went flying like a helicopter into a tree, and so they evac him out to the hospital, and his mom's praying Psalm 91, and she said, I saw his arm, it was a bit backwards, but the doctor said nothing's wrong with his arm. So just stuff like that too. And there was a hurricanes. People had some property on a hurricane, or on a beach. The hurricane came through. The water supposedly was up, 8 foot high levels. No damage to their apartment, but damage to everybody else's on both sides and on top of theirs. And they ended up selling it, getting the financial benefit of being able to sell that, so that at a decent price, because they're not any damage, but everybody else around them is damaged, which everything getting torn down anyway, and then rebuilt. So and then of people's on the farm, there's a flood, I forget where that was at, somewhere along the Mississippi, had flooded somebody's crop on there. They're praying Psalm 91. And so the flood comes and goes, and all their neighbors, the water damage is terrible, but his is fine. This stuff that God does to deliver people, and I'm trusting in, the same God of the Bible to deliver me and this stuff that I'm going through, because His Word tells me in Revelation chapter 8, verse 4, to come out of Babylon, which I believe is the United States, the USA. And if I don't, then you'll partake in her plagues, and you'll partake in her sins. And so it kind of mentions the same thing in Jeremiah 50 and 51, about coming out of Babylon. And so these things. And so anyway, I get back on, I'm on the bus in Santiago, Panama. Okay, going to Santiago, Panama. And again, arrive late at night, like about 11 o'clock at night when we get there. And say, okay, here's your stop. And they stop, and I get off this side of the road. There's like nothing. It's all dark, and the bus leaves, and you turn around. Oh, okay, there's a city on that side of the road over there. Okay, and so big bus terminal and a hotel, and I've got like $1 on there. And so I'm walking to the hotel and ask for a price, hoping that maybe somehow, God will provide something there, but it doesn't happen. I go into the bus terminal, sit and read my Bible for a little while, study somewhat for a while, my Bible and my notes and stuff, and then ended up going back to where they dropped me off, which was in Panama. They had a concrete bench, and it had a steel roof over it, and both sides open all the way around it, and that's where I slept for like the next thing was about 10 days. I stayed there. I had a little bit of sleeping bag and a little bit of a pad from the top of a bed to lay on, and that's where I stayed. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I only had like $1 or $2. I forget exactly how much it was. It wasn't much. And this is I'm thinking, what was this? This was for the Day of Atonement. It was like Saturday, and so I'm wanting to fast on the Day of Atonement, but I'm look at the bus receipt and I'm confused by the date. I'm not sure if it's Friday or if it's Saturday. And so I said, well, I'll fast today on this. And then I fasted for that day, which ended up being a Friday, the day before, which I didn't have much. I didn't have a dollar anyway. And just kind of sat in the bus terminal most of the day and studied my Bible, on that, and made notes with it. And then learned about the time of the sun going down that it was Friday somehow. I forget exactly. I figured that out. And so, okay, well, I need to fast tomorrow too, so I fasted for the other day also, and for the Day of Atonement. And then I'm not Jewish. I just try and follow the whole Bible is all. Okay, and so anyway, I slept the next night on the bench at the bus stop over there, and get up on Sunday morning, and I figured I'm gonna go find a church, and see what happens there, And so I had both my backpacks, and it seemed like I was carrying something in both by my hands too. Some I don't know some bags here as well. And so anyway, walking down the road and trying to figure out where the church is, and about 9 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, figure, okay, well, people are walking and they're all kind of going this way. Let's kind of follow the way they're going. And I ended up in a evangelical Catholic church. And put my stuff in the back on the seat, went up a few rows, sat down, and listened to the Spanish service, which I didn't understand anything of, but figured after service I'd go outside by the road, and I put up a sign, and it said, I need work. And a lady comes over to me and says, you should write that in Spanish. Like, okay, I don't know Spanish. And so she writes it for me, Nestia Trabajo. Like, okay, well, all right, good. And then she continues talking to me, and tell her what I'm doing, I'm trying to go down to Colombia, and why, and what I'm doing and stuff. And so she makes this other page, something about, on a pilgrimage to Colombia. And so I was like, okay. And she gives me a little bit of food and a little bit of money, and some other people, bring me a little bit of food and a little bit of money. And after pretty much everything from the church kind of cleared out, I went back up the road a couple of blocks where there was the strip mall, and one side of it there was a hardware store, and the other side of it there was a grocery store, and this big, wide, I don't know, like 10 or 12 foot, wide sidewalk going down between the two of them, and the parking lot to the right side, I guess, and so I sat by the door of the hardware store with this sign, and people would stop and try and talk to me in Spanish, and I don't understand. So it's like, I don't want this guy working for me. He don't understand Spanish. I don't understand what I want him to do. And so people give me a little bit of money, a little bit of food, and this happened for again, maybe the next 10 days, and I had about like $44 after this time, and God feeded me along the way too, and so I finally figured, like, oh, I think this is enough of this. I need to move on. I need to do something else here. I need to. When I was back in Guatemala City, I'd gotten on a computer and I looked at the shape of Panama, and there's kind of on the bottom left-hand side of Panama, there's kind of like a part of a foot that sticks out to one side of it, something on there. And I figured I'd go down there, and I looked on that computer, and there was a town that was called Escobo on the computer. And so I'm asking around for this town, Escobo. And nobody understands nothing there. So, finally I give up on that idea, and I say, I'm going to find me a map. And so I finally find a map, and looking on the map, and I don't find it on the map either. I'm like, let's see what's going on. So I end up going from Santiago, Panama by bus to kind of that way. Ended up in a little town called Los Tablas, and the night before I was studying, reading my Bible, I had this feeling I should move my passport from my Bible cover into my main backpack, and so I did, And so when I'm in Los Tablas, like the next day, I'm carrying my bag and my notebook. I'm carrying my Bible and my notebook in a bag. Okay, and it's like a shopping bag, just like you just bought something at a store or something. And I'm in Los Tabos, and again I got to go from one terminal to another terminal to be able to find the right bus to be able to trying to get down to this area of which is now Playa Vinda, which I thought was Los Escobo. And anyway, what Escobo, and so. Um, I took off my stuff, carrying my back. So I set them down by a pole, and I'm just like maybe 8 feet away from, maybe 10 feet away, I guess, from my bags, talking to a couple of policemen, trying to to ask them directions about how to get to this other bus for Playa Vinda. And then I go back to my bags, and I pick up my bags, and I go and I find this bus, and I get on the bus, and we're riding on this bus for about an hour, and I finally think, where's my Bible at? It was in a bag. I don't have my bag. I don't have my Bible. So thankfully I listened, and I moved my passport, from that bag, from my Bible cover to um, to my backpack. And whoever probably picked up my bag, stole a Bible, an English Bible, my notebook. So any good for them or not. So I figured, oh well, I'm an hour out of Los Tabos, headed for Playa Vinda, and I forget I only had 15, $20 on me by then. Um, on that for buying the ticket, so I get down to Playa Vinda, and Playa Vinda is pretty much nothing. It's kind of just a few houses here and there. There's this hostel, and people come into this hostel kind of for this vacation deal on there in Playa Vinda, and I'm there for a couple days, and basically I'm like, I've got to leave tomorrow. I've got my last $5, and it's like $5 a night, and I had to pay them and get the bus and get out of here because I don't have any money. Not making any money here, just sitting here. Had me a German girl there. Beautiful young woman. Uh, I'm forgetting her name at the moment, but it was kind of like anyway. Um, there's hammocks outside in this place, and you kind of like 8 hammocks kind of all around in a circle in this place with a roof on there, and you kind of hang out, and I was sitting on there, and there was some other people, and they left, and then she left, and she happened to leave her purse there, and so and I'm like, and I happened to kind of get up, but I saw her purse there, so I'm just going to hang out here and wait, for her to return. And I don't know, after 45 minutes, an hour, she finally returned and picks up her purse, and starts going through it, like somebody's probably stole something, gotten, and after she kind of goes through it, she kind of looks up like and realizes, wow, everything's still here. Because I didn't go through, I didn't take anything, and so she kind of starts talking to me, and I tell her what I'm doing, and ask her to come along with me, on that. But she had other plans, meeting a friend who was paralyzed, who is in a wheelchair that she needed to help. And so anyway, she ended up giving me $10 on that, helped me out. So I was getting on the bus and leaving, and so that day or the next day, I guess it was the next day, and so which I did, got back on the bus, go back to Los Tabos, and I'm thinking I go back to Los Tabos and go to the police station, and ask them if somebody turned in the Bible. As soon as I get to the terminal, they start hollering about this bus leaving for Panama City. And I'm like, what do I do? My Bible, I got right here, And so, well, I guess I'll just, excuse me, I'll just get on the bus, I guess, and go for Panama City. It was like $9.40, and I had 10, that she'd given me. And so, okay. So I ended up going to Panama City, and I'm forgetting about the Bible, and got in the terminal, and Panama is huge, man. Gee whiz, there's like, you got like buses of blocks like about 3 long, and you got rows of these buses that are like 3 blocks long, side by side, and like 10 of these things that are that. It's just huge, and gee whiz. And so anyway, I go inside of this. It's kind of like a mall, on the inside, between these rows of these buses, and on there, a lot of different stores, and coming across to this food court. In this food court, they've got Wendy's and KFC and some other American places, and other ones I don't know. I have no clue as to what they are. And so, anyway, I end up in Panama City, Panama, and this is about half hour on this video. So I'm going to call this video here on just arriving in Panama on this. So, this is, God is awesome. He provides for you. He takes care of you. He'll bless you. He wants us to put our trust in Him on that. So, and He provided for me. Some people pray Psalm 27 as their shield of protection, and some pray Psalm 91. So it'll be good to learn them both. I need to go back and study Psalm 27 some more, I guess, and maybe see about putting that to memory. Anyway, thanks you for watching. Appreciate your time. May God bless you. And we'll talk with you on, I guess this is part 2, so I'll talk to you on part 3 if you, find this interesting and want to learn the rest of my story.